It's tournament season at First, and the next big one at Gulfstream and ExpressBet is the Ultimate Betting Challenge this Saturday, March the 2nd. The Ultimate Betting Challenge features every race at Gulfstream Park on Fountain of Youth Day. Buy in for $6,000, $5,000 live bankroll, and compete against players from around the country for massive cash prizes and NHC seats. First will seed 4 NHC seats to the prize pool, and all cash entry fees will be distributed back as prizes. At 150 players, that's $150,000 in cash prizes, plus those 4 NHC seats. Play in the UBC on site at Gulfstream or jump in online with ExpressBet. Head on over to expressbet.com/tournaments for more information and to register to play. Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Nice card at Aqueduct on Saturday where a Kentucky Derby prep race is going to take place. Race number 10, a one-turn mile. It's the Grade 3 Gotham. Let's take a look at this field. It is a full field of 3-year-olds looking for Kentucky Derby qualifying points. Trainer Brad Cox has 3 horses in here, including the 10 Just a Touch, 5-2 on the morning line off a big figure maiden win, albeit sprinting in the slop at Fairgrounds.
5-2 would be tough to take on that horse in this field, but he certainly looked good winning first time out, Dan. The mile's not supposed to be a big issue for this horse.
He showed good tactical speed in that race, and stretching out in distance, we see Just a Touch expected to make the lead, but he is going to have to stretch out for the first time, and he might have to go pretty quick in order to grab the front. Fellow stretch out sprinter, the number 2, Maximus Meridian, has speed, and we have seen the 7 El Grande O show speed in the past. This one's turning back in distance, and a mile seems to fit.
I think it does too. I like him cutting back for this race. He is pretty fast when they want to be. I mean, they don't have to send him to the lead, Dan, but if they wanted it, he could certainly get there. I think the 2 is going to show speed as well. Maybe even the horse down on the rail will show speed in this race. He was outside last time. Now he's inside.
I think the 12 Slider is also going to show a little bit of that Southern California speed for trainer John Sadler, stretching out to a mile for the first time. So this pace should be honest. Let's start things off with Canate going out for trainer Todd Pletcher, who continues on the road with this Calumet Farm-owned colt. This time blinkers off. He made a bid in the Jerome, and he flattened out after going after El Grande O, the pace setter. He made a strong bid and went after El Grande O in the Withers, and then he flattened out again. But Todd's still keeping the faith, cutting them back and removing the hood.
And they've, used his speed in his last 3 starts too, Dan, and it just hasn't really worked out for him. We'll see if they decide to try different tactics this time. They got to try something else, because what they've been doing with him lately, and especially in those 2 stakes races, just hasn't worked out. He hasn't been good enough.
So Canate removes blinkers. The number 2, Maximus Meridian, added blinkers for his most recent start, his 3rd lifetime effort and his 2nd victory, and he wins this race very easily. A first-level allowance over muddy going at 6.5 furlongs. Not sure what he beat in here, though, Mike. 5 horses have already come back. None of them hit the board in their next outings, with the best buyer being a 59. We see Maximus Meridian hanging on his left lead.
And refused to change leads in this race. On the other hand, it feels like the addition of blinkers, if nothing else, it got him out of the gate this time, Dan. He didn't break great in his debut. He didn't break great in his 2nd start, but he had speed in both of those races. He got out of the gate last time, and he had no trouble dispatching that field. I think the talent's in there, but he's got to move forward.
One of the most intriguing horses in this race is the number 3, Deterministic, a very expensive yearling purchase by Liam's Map, who made his debut way back at Saratoga over the summer. It's not easy for a first-time starter to win going 7 furlongs, especially when they have to come widest and fastest. Deterministic did it after breaking slowly. This was a gutty effort. Now, unfortunately for Deterministic, he missed the rest of the year with an ankle chip, but a great trainer in Christophe Clement is showing a lot of confidence wheeling him back.
A lot of confidence shipping him up here from Florida, and it looks like he's training very forwardly for this, Dan. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. That was a serious debut, because you're right. It's not easy to win going 7 furlongs anyway. And then when you have trouble at the start on top of it, and you have to come wide, and then you're bumping with Eliminate at the top of the stretch, and you're still going to go on and win that race, that was a serious debut from this horse.
And the horse he ran down came back and ran 2nd in a maiden special at Aqueduct with a 91 buyer. Then Clement ran him in a restricted stakes race in Florida, where he ran 3rd as a maiden with an 84. Facenda is up next. First time Doug ONeal. This horse is going to get a major class quiz, stretching out and stepping up after winning his 1 start at Turf Paradise. He pressed the pace this day. He goes about his business down towards the inside. The trip was there for him. He only earned a 50 buyer higher speed figure. 4 horses have emerged from this race. None have hit the board, with the best buyer being a 32.
Feels like he beat nothing here. The two interesting things about this horse, Dan, are first of all that he's here and he's running in the Gotham in his second start. The second interesting thing is you have to continue with that replay that we just showed. He really only ran the last 50 yards of that race and won easy. And then after the wire, I don't know, he left that field for dead and went way, way out and clear that entire field. It felt like he only ran for a very little amount of time in that race. And he's got some pedigree behind him. He's not only does he have a good pedigree, it's a distance pedigree. He's probably not going to win this race. This probably isn't the right race for him. He's a little interesting at a huge price.
He's 50-1 on our colleague David Aragona's morning line. The 5 is Deposition, going out for Uriah St. Louis, who is no stranger to sending out big priced horses in major stakes races in New York, and Deposition's going to be a big price. The horse ran okay to be 4th last time out in the Withers over muddy going, Mike. I think they're going to take him back and try to make one run, although he does seem pace adaptable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how everything plays out for him. I mean, obviously a fast pace would probably help him. I don't know that he has to be a million lengths out of it here, Dan. And he did move forward in the Withers last time. Even a repeat of that performance won't get it done here, but maybe he'll get a little bit lucky.
Our Cav, the number 6, was a debut winner for trainer Brad Cox. That race was going 5.5 furlongs at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, and Brad's tested this guy since, running him twice in the Champagne, where he was in against Timberlake over a very wet track. That was too much too soon. He caught another wet track in the Jimmy Wingfield off the layoff, and he was sort of run off his feet by Bergen that day. So he's got to do more, and there's a chance he might get wet going again. That might not be his footing.
It might not be. That's true. I mean, so far he just hasn't run a race that's really going to make him competitive in here, Dan. You don't have to hold the Champagne against him, but he didn't really do anything in there. I didn't think he ran well off the layoff last time. The debut, the only win, he looked beaten that race before he finally fought back at the end and got the job done.
You got to respect the New York bred El Grande. Oh, if only because he runs all the time. He dances every single dance, and he runs hard every single time, including this effort in the Grade 3 Withers, coming on the heels of a runner-up effort in the Jerome. El Grandeo had his chance in this race, Mike. Yes, he had to work to put Canate, the 42-1 shot, away, but he's got a clear lead in mid-stretch, and it looks like he's on his way to victory. I think the 1 1/8 finally takes its toll, and Uncle Heavy, a horse you touted, is just going to get him on the wire.
A tough beat for this horse. I mean, you can't really say he had much of an excuse here, Dan. He probably is supposed to win. This is a tough beat, though. I mean, he just gets nailed on the wire, and he did run. I mean, he did some running in the early part of that race. It's not like he walked on the lead. I don't know. I thought he ran pretty well there. I didn't hate his Jerome 2 starts back. I thought that was an okay performance. And I just like him going this shorter distance in this race. I think you're finally going to get a fair price on him in here, and I'm not totally against him.
8-1 is a fair price. Do you think he's a need the lead type, or do you think he can sit? Because it does appear that turning back in distance, he's going to be facing some fast stretch out sprinters. So if he is a need the lead type, he's going to have to work.
That's true. And it's a very good point that you bring that up too. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to rate and run effectively. And it's going to be key for this horse. If it's not in this race, somewhere down the line, you can't just keep blasting off to the front.
Here's Brad Cox's number 8, Bergen. Cox has 4 in here. Bergen is a half to Chi-Town lady who won the test going 7/8 of a mile a couple of years ago. And Bergen has done nothing wrong from 3 lifetime starts. Here's Bergen in the Jimmy Wingfield on January the 27th. It was a wet track. Bergen set off the pace, blew him away in the lane. Just looked good doing it, Mike. I think a mile's probably within his limit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do too. He was really good winning the Wingfield last time. Very confident ride from Manny Franco around the track, sat on the outside. He absolutely dominated that field. His debut, I thought, was a serious performance too, with a big finish from off the pace. They went the 1 2 mile back, and maybe you want to look at that and feel like the distance did him in or he didn't run well. He ran great in that race. He did not get a good trip. That was a really good horse that won that race in a really good field overall. This horse was pretty unlucky he's pretty unlucky not to be undefeated right now.
Buyers are going the right way, handles a wet track, think the mile will be okay, and I think he can work out his own trip. Eliminate is the number 9. He got Lasix for his most recent start, going 6.5 furlongs, his first start of the year, and Eliminate got it done finally for Todd Pletcher. We see him on the far outside. He's going to grind this field down. I don't see any reason why he won't get the mile. He's certainly bred for it. The problem is he won't get Lasix in the Gotham.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe the Lasix put him over the top here, or maybe it was cutting back in distance. He really didn't run great when they tried 2 turns with him in starts 2 and 3. They cut him back here. He obviously runs a better race this time. He's got to move forward one more time, but it'll be a price.
Just a Touch is the number 10, a hot debut winner at the fairgrounds. Bet down to odds on over that sloppy track, pressed a very reasonable pace on the outside, took over at will, and went on about his business. Earned an 89 Buyer speed figure. Now, that race was at 3/4. He's going to have to go a mile. He's bred for it. He's by Justify His Dam won the Comely at Aqueduct going a 1-turn mile. He looks like a big, strong, good-looking horse with a future.
I agree with all that. I really liked his debut. I liked how professional he was. I like how easily he won, even after a horse beat him to the early lead. He didn't really care about that, and he got a good trip. And I also feel like it's worth pointing out the horse that ran second to him, that Asmussen Firster, that horse has a chance to be really good. We'll see where he turns up next. So it's a lot to like about this horse. It's your call whether you want to bet him at a short price.
Light Line, the number 11, already has a win at a mile. It was a 2-turn debut at Horseshoe Indianapolis, placed in 3 subsequent outings, including the Withers, a race we saw El Grandeo finish second. Light Line ran third that day, kind of a non-threatening third, but he's lightly raced. This is his third start of the form cycle, and again, he has plenty of foundation after 4 routes.
That's true. And he's another horse cutting back for this, which I actually feel like could help him. I didn't think he ran great in the Withers, but it wasn't a terrible performance either. Personally, Dan, I don't really like any of his 4 races so far. I'm not sure that he's that good, but he was probably over bet last time, and he'll be a price in here. I mean, I think they're going to sort of be off him in this race, and it's not like he has no chance to win.
In from California is the 12 Slider, who is a stakes winner sprinting on the turf in Southern California. Also earned a graded stakes placing last time out in the San Vicente, going 7/8 of a mile, where he faced one of the better 3-year-olds in the country in Muth, who of course placed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Slider showed speed, couldn't go with him in the stretch, got a little bit tired. We'll see how far he wants to go. I think this horse does have some potential, but the mile I think is a big question mark.
Yeah, I agree. He runs okay in here, but it's not, the kind of performance that gets me that excited, Dan. And I was unsure about him as a 2-year-old too. I liked some of his races. I wasn't really sure why they decided to make him a turf horse at the end of the year, but so maybe that's where his future is. I'm not sure. I'm just sort of confused by this horse. He's going to be a fair price in there, so I'm not going to argue against him too much. I just really couldn't talk myself into him.
Drawing the far outside post is the 13 Capital Idea, also trained by Christophe Clement. This horse scored second time out going the 1-turn mile at Aqueduct over a wet track. He did have Lasix in this race. He will not have it, of course, on Saturday, but he showed fine tactical speed. The pace really was not fast at all. They went almost 49 seconds to the half. Capital Idea was able to stay close, and he wins very easily.
Yeah, I like this performance from him too. He took a nice step forward in this race and just runs away from these horses late. I like the way he finishes it off, Dan. I'm not sure that the wet track had that much to do with it. He ran really well first time out too. He just didn't get a great trip.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Gotham. You're going with a Brad Cox runner. I'm going with a Brad Cox runner. You're going with Bergen, who should be a better price and is a horse that has shown nothing but ability in 3 starts.
I like all of his races, Dan. I saw him at 9-2 on the morning line. It's an easy call for me. I hope I get that price.
You're going 8, 3, 4, and 7. I think Just a Touch is a future. I'm not sure how low I want to go on the tote, though, considering he is going to have to stretch out and face a faster pace scenario than the fairgrounds. I do like your horse, Bergen. I want to use him in multiple race wagers. I have to admit, I'm a little bit interested in Light Line if this pace gets very, very hot. I think, as you mentioned, turning back in distance could work for him. Maybe he kicks a bit in the stretch. So I'll go 10, 8, 12, and 11. It's the Gotham. It's a Derby prep race, the Big A on Saturday. Good luck.